never expected my son to say what he said. And yet, there it was, a simple sentence that shook me more than anything anyone else ever could. It happened on a quiet afternoon. We were sitting together in the living room, the sunlight filtering through the curtains, and I was thinking about my future, thinking about the woman I hoped would one day share my life, my heart racing with a mixture of excitement and nerves. My son looked up at me with those big, honest eyes, and without any hesitation, he said, "Dad, she's going to make you the happiest man alive." I froze for a moment, not because of disbelief, but because of the weight behind his words. Children have a way of seeing things adults miss, a clarity that cuts through all our doubts. I asked him, carefully, "How do you know that?" He shrugged casually, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. "I just know, I can feel it. When you talk about her, your eyes shine differently." It was true. I hadn't realized how obvious it had become, how my heart had started reacting before my mind even admitted it. Every time I thought about her, my chest felt lighter, my smile came easier, and suddenly, even the most ordinary days seemed brighter. That evening, I couldn't stop thinking about his words. They were simple, yet they carried the truth. I hadn't fully admitted to myself. I was falling in love, deeper than I'd ever expected, and somehow even a child could sense it. Days passed, and every interaction with him reminded me of the honesty in his observation. He would notice the little things I did when I thought no one was looking, the way I paused before answering her messages, the way I got quiet when I thought about our future together. One afternoon, he tugged at my sleeve and said, "Dad, when she comes into our home for the first time, you're going to see magic happen." Magic. That word stayed with me, because I realized it wasn't just about romantic gestures. It was about the energy she would bring, the warmth, the joy, the love that would ripple through our lives. And my son, in his innocence, already understood it. I found myself thinking back to the first time I met her, how my heart had skipped, how my words had faltered, how I had never imagined someone could make me feel both excitement and peace at the same time. My son, observing quietly, had picked up on that feeling before I even admitted it to myself. And somehow that made it even more real. Weeks later we were out for a walk, just the three of us, and he looked at me again. "Seriously this time, Dad, promise me you'll never let her go. She's the one for you, and for us too." It was the kind of statement that made you stop in your tracks. Because children don't say things like that lightly. They don't weigh the implications. They just know. I held his hand, feeling a mix of pride and awe. I promised him silently, without words, that I would cherish this love, protect it, nurture it, because even he recognized its value. Over the next few days, every time I saw him smile, I imagined the life we could all have together, the laughter, the warmth, the shared mornings and evenings. And I realized that love wasn't just about the two of us anymore. It was about creating a life for all three of us. A family built on trust, understanding, and care. One evening, while sitting around the dinner table, he suddenly said, "Dad, I think she'll love me like I love her already. I can tell she has a kind heart." I glanced at him, astonished. His words were simple, yet profound. He had already started imagining our future as a family, and his heart was open, ready to accept her. I looked back at him and felt a rush of gratitude, not just for the love I was discovering, but for the way a child's pure, unfiltered perception could illuminate a path that my own heart was only beginning to understand. From that day on, I began noticing more of the little signs, how my son would light up talking about her, how he would ask about her day, how he subtly tried to find ways to make her feel welcome even before she was officially part of our lives. It made me realize that love doesn't exist in isolation. It creates ripples. It touches others, shapes interactions, builds connections in ways we don't always anticipate, and children, with their honesty, are often the first to see it. Every time he made one of those observations, my heart skipped again, not with nervousness, but with certainty. I knew then that what we were building wasn't just a romance, it was a foundation, a bond that would include him, us, and the life we were beginning to imagine together. There were moments when I doubted myself, when the future seemed uncertain, when life's challenges made me question whether I could truly merge my past with what I hoped for. But his words anchored me. His unwavering faith in what he sensed gave me courage. He had no doubts. He had no fears. He just knew, and that simple knowledge was more powerful than anything I had ever experienced. That night, as I tucked him into bed, he whispered softly, "Dad, she's going to be the best thing that ever happened to us. I can feel it in my heart." And in that moment, I understood completely. Love isn't just about two hearts. It's about the world you create around it. It's about the people who see it, who feel it, and who, without asking, tell you the truth about it. My son had just done that, and it changed everything. I realized that love, when it's real, isn't something you keep to yourself. It spreads, it touches, it influences, and sometimes the most unexpected voice, like the voice of a child, can make you understand the depth of what's coming. Because now I could see it clearly. The woman I loved, the future we were stepping into, the family we would build together, all of it was already shining through his innocent observations. And I couldn't help but smile, knowing that somehow the truth had been revealed long before I was ready to admit it myself. The next morning started like any other, yet something felt different. The air seemed lighter, the sunlight warmer, and even the sounds of the city outside my window carried a subtle excitement I hadn't noticed before. I realized it was the aftermath of my son's words, the weight of what he had said echoing in my heart. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time I blinked, every time I exhaled, I felt that same gentle pull toward the future, toward her, toward the life we were slowly beginning to imagine together. Breakfast was quiet. My son was unusually focused, picking at his food, but I could see the sparkle in his eyes. That sparkle told me he was already thinking about her, about how she would fit into our lives. And I felt a rush of gratitude for his intuition, his innocence, his honesty. I tried to concentrate on my coffee, on the mundane tasks of the morning, but my mind kept drifting to memories of the first time I saw her. The way her laugh had made my chest ache in the best way, the subtle warmth in her smile that made me feel both comforted and excited. I remembered how my heart had reacted before I even knew what love was truly capable of, and I realized my son had seen it all even before I admitted it to myself. Later that day, we went out to run errands, the kind of simple outing that suddenly felt loaded with possibility. My son held my hand as we walked down the street, and I could sense him analyzing everything. The way I glanced at the shop windows, the way I paused when my phone buzzed with a message from her, the way I smiled slightly more than usual when I thought no one was looking. "Dad," he said, suddenly, breaking my thoughts, "you really can't stop thinking about her, can you?" I looked at him, startled, caught in the act, and yet relieved. I guess I can't," I admitted. "I've never felt this way before." He nodded knowingly, as if he had expected it all along. "I know, Dad. I can see it in your eyes. She's already part of us, even if she doesn't know it yet." His words, hit me because it wasn't just about love between two people, it was about connection, about how our lives were already intertwined, about the way family, even a small one, could feel the ripple of love before it fully existed. That afternoon we returned home and he immediately started talking about plans. Small, innocent plans. Dad, when she comes to our home, I want to show her my room and the garden. And I want to help you make her favorite food. She has to feel welcome. I watched him with awe, the sincerity in his voice, the care in his words, the desire to include her. It struck me how much a child's perception of love could influence the way adults think about it. I realized he was teaching me something. He was showing me how love isn't selfish, how it isn't just about feelings between two people. It's about thoughtfulness, about nurturing, about imagining a life that makes everyone feel safe, appreciated, and loved. Evening came, and we sat together watching the sunset, the sky painted in shades of pink and gold. My son leaned against me, and I could feel his heartbeat steady and calm. And he said, Dad, when she smiles at you, it's going to feel like the whole world is smiling with you. I swallowed hard, because he was right. I could already imagine that smile, already feel the warmth it would bring. And I realized that love wasn't just about passion, it was about shared experiences, quiet moments, and the sense of belonging that my son so clearly recognized. The next few days were filled with small, almost mundane activities, yet each one was charged with meaning. My son would notice the way I responded to her messages, the way I lingered on certain thoughts, the way I imagined introducing her into our home. And every time he would comment, always innocent, always curious, always insightful. Dad, do you think she'll like the couch in the living room? He asked one afternoon. I laughed, but it wasn't just about furniture. It was about the way he already cared, the way he was thinking about her comfort and happiness before she even arrived. I realized then that my son had a way of seeing beyond appearances. He noticed intentions, feelings, and subtle truths, and in doing so, he was teaching me to look at love differently, not as a fleeting emotion, but as a commitment to create happiness, safety, and joy. One evening, as we were preparing dinner, he said quietly, Dad, I hope she knows how much she's already loved, even before she's part of our lives. I paused. The words lingered in the air, heavier than any sentence I'd heard in years. He was right. She didn't know it yet, but she was already woven into our hearts. She was already part of the story we were living, and somehow that made every heartbeat more meaningful. Later that night, after tucking him into bed, he whispered something that stayed with me long after the lights went out. Dad, don't ever forget, love isn't just about you. It's about us. It's about everyone who sits touched by it, and I can already feel it. Even now, I sat in the dark, thinking, reflecting on the truth in his words. He was teaching me patience, teaching me foresight, teaching me that love wasn't selfish, that it was about care, attention, and creating a life where everyone felt included. Over the next week, I started noticing changes in myself, small, subtle shifts. I was more thoughtful, more patient, more attuned to what mattered. I found myself imagining the life we could have together, not just as a couple, but as a family. My son's presence in that vision made it more real, more urgent, more beautiful. Every message I sent her now felt deliberate. Every plan I made seemed infused with care, and every thought I had about the future included him in ways I hadn't anticipated. One afternoon we went to the park, just the two of us, and he pointed at a bench, smiling. Dad, imagine her sitting here with us. Imagine how happy we'll all be. I sat beside him, heart full. I can imagine it, I said, and I can feel it. He leaned against me, resting his head on my shoulder, and said, I think she's already part of our world. Dad, I can feel it in every little thing we do. And he was right. Every little action, every small thought, every hope we carried. It was all pointing toward a future that was already beginning to take shape. By the time night fell, I realized how much my son's insight had changed me. He had opened my eyes to a truth I had only glimpsed in my heart. He had shown me that love was bigger than me, bigger than just us, and that when it finally arrived, it would be shared, nurtured, and celebrated by everyone whose lives it touched. I sat by his bed, watching him sleep, the peaceful rise and fall of his chest, the calm on his face, the trust he had placed in the future, and I made a promise, silently, with every fiber of my being. I promised to cherish her, to include him, to build a life full of laughter, warmth, and love. I promised to honor the intuition of a child who had already seen what I was only beginning to understand. I promised that our story would be one where love wasn't just a feeling, it was an action, a commitment, and a bond that tied all of us together. And as I sat there, the moonlight spilling across his face, I realized something powerful. That sometimes the purest perspective, like that of a child, can illuminate truths we've been blind to. That sometimes love isn't something we discover alone. It's revealed to us through the hearts of those who see it most clearly, even before we do. This was just the beginning, the start of a journey where love, hope, and family would converge, where every moment, every decision, every heartbeat would be guided by the awareness that we were no longer just two, we were a family. And the woman I loved, the future I imagined, and the child whose words had changed everything, all of it was waiting to unfold. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains. I woke with a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. My thoughts immediately went to her, to the woman who was slowly becoming the center of our world, and to my son whose words from the past days had permanently reshaped the way I viewed love. As I made breakfast, I found myself carefully arranging the table, not because anyone would notice yet, but because I wanted it to feel right. I wanted every little detail to reflect the care and attention that my heart was already giving to her. Every cup, every plate, every napkin became a tiny symbol of what I imagined our life together could look like. My son bounced into the kitchen, still half asleep, but already brimming with energy. Dad, he said, eyes wide, I had a dream about her last night. She was smiling, and we were all together. You, me, and her. It felt like happiness I've never known before. I smiled, feeling my chest tighten. I had a similar dream, I admitted softly. I kept seeing us together, all of us, and it felt real, as if it could happen any moment. He nodded, satisfied. It will happen, Dad. I can feel it. You just need to make sure she knows she belongs with us. The simplicity of his words carried an enormous weight. It reminded me that love wasn't just about my desire for her. It was about making space in our lives, hearts, and routines for someone else. It was about inclusion, patience, and genuine care. And my son, in all his innocence, had already mastered this understanding. After breakfast, we decided to take a walk in the park. The city felt different that day, brighter, almost alive with possibilities. As we walked, my son kept looking around, imagining every little scenario. Dad, imagine her sitting by the fountain. I'd run to get ice cream for all of us. You'd make her laugh, like you always do. And then we'd watch the ducks together. I laughed at his vivid imagination, but inside I felt a surge of emotion. The image he painted wasn't far from the reality I wanted, and it struck me how children can sense things adults often overlook. The ease, the joy, the unspoken connections that make love not just a feeling but a lived experience. We found a quiet bench and sat together. He leaned against me, whispering as if sharing a secret. "Dad, do you think she'll like our home? Do you think she'll feel safe here with us?" I put my arm around him, holding him close. "She will," I said firmly. We said firmly, "We'll make sure she does." Because love isn't just about words. It's about actions, about creating a life that makes someone feel cherished and included. He smiled, satisfied, and for a moment everything felt perfectly aligned. The way the sunlight hit the trees, the gentle rustling of leaves, the distant laughter of children playing. It all felt like a promise, a prelude to a future that was slowly becoming inevitable. On the way back home, we stopped at a small cafe. My son insisted on getting his favorite treat, and while he devoured it happily, I found myself writing a quick message to her, just a simple note. Yet every word was weighted with meaning, every sentence crafted to convey warmth, care, and a hint of the life we could build together. "I hope you know," I typed slowly, "that you're already part of our hearts, that we think of you in little ways, and that I can't wait for the day you're truly here with us." Sending the message felt like releasing a small piece of my soul into the world. And when I put my phone away, my son looked at me knowingly. "She's going to love it, Dad. She has to. It's perfect." That afternoon, we returned home and began preparing for the evening. My son was insistent on helping, setting the table, arranging flowers, even choosing the playlist of soft music that could welcome her. And I realized that he wasn't just helping with chores. He was actively participating in shaping the future, in creating the atmosphere of love and acceptance that would surround her. As we worked, he asked, "Dad, do you think she'll like the garden? I planted the roses myself. Just in case." I looked at the blooms, their petals catching the sunlight. "She's going to love them, and she'll know they came from your heart." The day stretched into evening, and we found ourselves sitting quietly in the living room, the music playing softly, the aroma of dinner still lingering. My son curled up next to me, and I felt the warmth of family, of anticipation, of love that was patiently waiting to be realized. "With that," he whispered, "do you think she knows how much we already care? How much she sits already wanted in our lives?" I paused, taking in the depth of his question. "I sit, not sure she knows yet, but she will, and we sit, will make sure she feels it every single day." The night grew darker, and as I looked at my son, asleep on the couch, I felt a profound sense of purpose. Every decision I had made, every plan I had imagined, every message I had sent, was part of a larger design. A design where love wasn't fleeting, it wasn't selfish, it was expansive, inclusive, and deeply rooted in connection. And then, as if on cue, a thought struck me with clarity, that the journey wasn't just about waiting for her. It was about preparing our hearts, our home, our routines, and even our son's world for her arrival. It was about laying the groundwork for a life that was already beginning to take shape in small, deliberate ways. I realized that the true beauty of love wasn't in the dramatic declarations or the perfect moments. It was in the quiet preparation, the small gestures, the thoughtful anticipation. It was in the knowledge that someone would soon enter our lives, and we were ready to welcome them fully, completely, and with open hearts. As the night drew to a close, I sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker. The world outside felt both vast and intimate, and I thought about the future, about her smile, her laugh, the warmth of her hand in mine, about the life we were about to begin. My son stirred, opening his eyes slightly. "Dad, when she finally comes, we'll be ready, won't we? I smiled, reaching out to hold his hand. We'll be more than ready. We'll be waiting with everything we have, and love will fill every corner of our lives. The promise in that simple exchange settled over me, a promise that we were ready for her, ready for the life we had imagined, ready for the love that had already begun to grow, silently, patiently, and beautifully. And as I finally turned off the lights, leaving my son sleeping peacefully, I felt the first real taste of hope, anticipation, and certainty that the woman we were waiting for, the future that was slowly unfolding, and the love that had already begun to shape us were all inevitable.